Hey, everybody. Welcome to Quick Take, where we talk about the topics that are on the minds of executives everywhere. It's me and Susie flipping it around, where I'm doing the intro to see if I can screw it up as well as she can, and I didn't do a good job. I put a whole full coherent sentence together accidentally. So
You did do
so off,
quite a great job.
it,
I'm
it's
impressed.
so off brand.
That's why they tune
Hey,
in. Now they're tuning out.
that's right. Oh, this is too polished. This is like NPR. I can't watch this crap.
We talk slower.
Oh, yes. Let's do. Hey, but what I do want to talk about is an interesting conversation you and I were having a moment ago and decided to talk about it. Is I have some really great people that work with me, and in particular, a really great up and coming executive who has a pedigree that is amazing. She's a strong female leader, and we were talking about success um, and what it takes. And she just asked me, what's the secret? How did you're successful? What did you do?
Mm.
Um, and it was like this conversation around, uh, I get the feeling that people are always saying, hey, just tell me what you did. Um, I mean, how many times have you been asked by somebody, if you give me an advice to be successful, what would you do? And I think that they're always looking for that blueprint. I mean, do you
Yeah.
run into that a lot?
Oh my gosh, all the time. Like, what did you do? How did you know? What path did
Right.
you take? What did you use? Just give me, the quick synopsis, the Reader's Digest
Mhm, mhm.
version, and I'll just follow it because I don't know what else to do.
Yeah, yeah. And what do you think about that? I mean, what do you tell people? I mean, my thought is, gosh, you want to go through and try to give them some nugget, but I mean, is there a blueprint? I mean, do you feel like you've had enough time and opportunity to talk to people? Do you feel like there's one there?
I do think there's things that young executives need to do as a part of discovering that path,
Okay.
if you
Oh, that's
will.
very different though. It's there's no easy button, but there are things that are
Yeah.
are 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 things that will make it easier.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
There's an easier button. It's just not an easy button.
And I think one of those is just thinking about opportunities around you and being aware of
Sure.
that so you don't miss them. I remember early on in my career, my boss had come to me and told me about this leading this new project. He wanted somebody to do it. And I kept in my head going, gosh, I wish it was, I would love to do that. I would love to do that. And he basically said, I was waiting for you to ask for it.
Oh,
And
interesting.
I had missed it. It was right, like literally right in front of me.
Angled in front of you.
Yeah, and that
Right.
was luckily very early in my career, and it was great that he said that to me,
Sure.
because then I started seeing that when things come up, and it may not even be that obvious when somebody says, "Do you wanna lead this project?" But when there's an opportunity, why not ask, "Can I do that?" Or if you are
Right.
asked, just say yes, even if you don't feel quite fully qualified or you don't have the
Right.
experience, figure it out later. And you always say that. And I think that that's a key to just automating your response.
Sure.
Just say
Yeah,
yes.
that's a great way to say it. I think that, yeah, leaning into that, we hear that phrase a lot. Just looking at the opportunities, and I think another piece of that too is you have to look for opportunities that may not be down the path that you expect yourself to go down. One of the things that I always lament about is how so many people end up in the ecosystem in which their first job tends to be, and so
Mhm.
people don't find and look outside of that those initial paths for opportunity, and many opportunities that come to you may not be in alignment with the vision you have today. And so those opportunities may give you, something bigger. The
Yeah.
lateral opportunity may take you further than that one step forward opportunity. So that's a great piece of advice there. Always be looking for opportunities, lean into those opportunities, and
Yep.
and take the risks. What's another piece of advice you give there?
Yeah, I think we often think of ourselves in our role, like the job description that was given to
Right.
us, and then kind of like, what's the next progression for me? So we tend to go to our boss and say, what is the next progression for me? But
Sure.
yes, the company needs to give you the tools and the exposure that you need to do your role well. But I believe that professionals need to also own their own journey. And so
Totally
having
agree.
something maybe not, what am I going to do 5 years? That's, like you just said, too hard of a question to answer. But
Right.
what is the skill that is beyond your role that you want to hone? Or what
Sure.
is something you want to do, whether it's being a better presenter in front of the executive team, maybe it's being a part of a project that has high exposure, or just,
Right.
something that's outside of your comfort. What would you say would be an example of that from more of a tech
Oh, I
perspective?
think on the technical side, it's, learning about a different technology space,
Mhm.
growing your understanding of a different and maybe an industry, or learning how a large company does this or a small company does this. There's so many different axes you can look at, but the truth is that and I agree with you 100%. You've got to own your own journey. Don't expect somebody to tell you that you need to do this to get
Mhm.
forward. Um, I guess that does apply to something we were talking about that this individual mentioned was, I feel like I've been dropped into the ocean
Yeah.
and I don't have any direction. In many cases, you just have to try things.
Yeah.
You're dropped into the ocean. Well, maybe I'll learn to swim. I've been dropped in the ocean. Maybe I'll learn how to fish. I've been dropped in the ocean. Well, maybe I'll learn how to water ski. You never know what that additional thing to your toolbox will bring. And so you've got
Yeah.
to own that. I like that a
I
lot.
totally
Yeah,
agree. And do it with the intention of bettering yourself. But
sure.
those things that you just mentioned, how impressive would that be if you're in a senior executive and you're like, "Oh, that's interesting. You went to that course, or you took that initiative, or you're bettering yourself." So bringing that
Mhm.
up also shows your commitment to yourself, which
Yes.
is also
Right.
equates directly to the success of the business.
I totally agree. And I think one last point on this too, and that diversity is, we know a lot of people who are one industry ponies, one job
Yeah.
pony, people who are really single threaded. And I think, I think the more impressive candidates and the more impressive leaders are the ones that have a more diverse palette, and can be successful with diverse and unique situations versus, more of the same.
Yeah, I totally agree.
So
And
number
then
three, what, give me a third
yeah,
one.
I know, because in your world, since I'm being you, it's all about the threes.
One, two,
I'm
three. You
just
got to give me
saying
the
1, 2,
three.
3,
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. So the third
Yep.
one is one that I will stick by for my entire career. It's been the game changer for me. It's networking. And you and I
Yep.
have talked about, if people hear that and they think cocktail party,
Yep. Yep. Yep.
conference. No,
Right. Boring
it's
conversation,
yes,
uncomfortable discussions, annoying people.
yes.
Totally agree.
And I want to look at it from this lens. We often think that the guidance comes from our direct manager, our direct leader, but also taking a step back and zooming out and thinking, who has influence within the organization and who would be good to know, or needs to see you from your perspective instead of
Mhm.
hearsay or perception. And those leaders understand that networking for younger executives is important and imperative to their careers. So very often, I would say it's infrequent that the door would be shut. Those senior executives would welcome that opportunity, that
Sure.
additional
Sure.
exposure. And it doesn't have to feel icky. It can just feel like you're just trying to get to know that person and understand what makes them tick.
And I'm going to build on that. And we haven't talked about this in the past. And it was something you said earlier in a previous conversation, which was one of your skill sets was the ability to learn from observing and learning from what others are
Mhm.
doing. And I think one of the probably unspoken concepts around networking is really emulation. And I
Yeah.
think for me, I find that when I'm in a situation, I often have said to myself, what would this person do? Or what would somebody who
Mhm.
I truly respect, or a person that I had worked with in the past, what would this person have done?
Yeah.
And whether or not that's true, maybe it's me just projecting, or I can actually witness that person doing that. You know what? When we had to do a layoff, this person was amazing, and I'm going to learn from that. I may not get
Mhm.
the opportunity to sit down with them and say, "Geez, please tell me the six things that went through your mind during this." But the opportunity to just having exposure, whether it's a direct dialogue, whether it's a casual dialogue, or just observing, that's networking.
Mhm.
And I think that's
Yes.
something that we undervalue, because you can learn a lot just from through constructive observation.
Absolutely, absolutely. Get out of your own head and just kind of be an observer objectively in
Yeah,
the
yeah,
room. That's
goes
really,
a long way.
really sound.
So
So
excellent. Good, good.
yes, I
So
did good.
let's wrap it up. So give me those three. What do you got there? What are those? Can you
Oh
wrap them up for me?
gosh, I'm feeling like a little pressure to pull it all together.
You can do
So
it.
the first one, I can't remember. Oh, yes, I do. The first one is to just seize
Say
opportunities
yes.
and have your automatic response be yes
Yep.
and
Right.
figure it
First,
out
say
later.
yes. Okay.
Yep.
Second one.
The second one was I remember the third one. The second
Always
one was
learn.
oh, yes,
Uh,
always be learning. Gosh, I am not good at being you. Always thinking, don't try to boil the ocean. Don't try to do it all, but think of things that skills, experiences, something that you want to hone that's
mhm,
just in your kind of purview now and
right. Right.
focus on that and get a little uncomfortable as you seize that. And then the third, I'm just going to say cuz
Third.
I know it
Yeah.
is to do internal networking. And part of that is just being a really good observer and taking in some of those best practices that you might see in other people around you.
Perfect. Wow, great. Three great topics. Three great items that we can undertake that are not a blueprint, but certainly make how you put that roadmap together for your success. Great things that you can give to your folks. Excellent conversation, Susie. You did a great job being me. You're better dressed than I usually am, so I'm happy to have you switch places with us. Thanks for joining us this week on Quick Take, where we talk about the topics that are on the minds of executives everywhere. Um, Click below if you want to hear more details or subscribe, and we will see you next time.
Well done.